Hello everyone, Jameson8532 here. So, today, um, we're doing something a little bit different. But first, I want to address what you just saw. That whole sequence right there is the new intro for custom showcases. Woo, yeah. Um, that I've been saying for a while now that I've sort of needed to change the format or do something different with this series or do something different on the channel. So I thought, okay, well, some of these other things take a really long time to make. So what if I just changed Custom Showcase to be a little bit more? So I did, and you guys have that intro now. Don't worry, it won't be J50 Thomas every time. I mean, at the end. Before it will always be AU Thomas running around. With that, now that you guys understand the intro, let's get into the engine I kind of just spoiled the secret for. AU Thomas, or J50 Thomas, whatever you want to call him. So, let me explain this. So, you guys may have been thinking that my Railway Series customs have been my AU engines, you could say. And I suppose they have, as they've served a good, time as the AU engines. But I realized calling them, 8 Railway Series kind of tied me down to the books. Which, don't get me wrong, the books are amazing, but they are limiting when you're trying to come up with stories that take place in the periods of time that they do. And you can't exactly just be TV series, because then you have the style of the television series kind of holding you back. So, I've decided to go ahead and make an AU Thomas. My alternate universe Thomas, you could say. Yeah. Sorry, just a bit of rolling stock. That's all. So, that's why he exists. Okay, now you're probably thinking, okay, Eddie, why'd you change the class? He's not technically a J50. Well, don't get me wrong, the E2s are definitely a very iconic class for Thomas, but they weren't the most efficient engines. I know, everybody says that. Some people are really E2 haters. I'm not necessarily an E2 hater. I mean, look at this guy, he's massive. But it doesn't quite fit Thomas's personality for me. Now, you might be saying, well, Eddie, the J50s were also rather large. Well, they have this lumped-in look. Like, you see how the boiler barely comes up above the tanks when you look at it from a direct side view? It makes Thomas feel a whole lot smaller than he actually is. So, yeah. That's why I chose the J50 rather than even a Ginty. But, so, this guy was made from the old TV series Thomas. You know, the guy this guy replaced? Yeah. He was made from that guy. First, I cut off the curve in his footplate. And you can see I replaced the length with a piece of cardboard. Actually, it's a bit longer than the original. If I can find him, at least find one down here. These guys are about the same length. Okay. Hold up. The average Trackmaster 2 model, he is just a little bit longer than. Just a little bit. They're even in front now, and they're even in back. No, they're even in back. There we go. Thomas is just a little bit longer. But that's fine. I might do this guy. So, yeah. Thomas is just a little bit longer than them. And you also, I'm saying this a lot, but you might be thinking, what's with the yellow lining? Well, I wanted sort of a radical, different take on Thomas. Because we've seen Thomas's J50s before. We've seen Thomas's Z2s, Ginties, whatever. They've always had the red lining. And even if they do feature the NW in this less stylized one, it's never, like, it still reminds you of Thomas. While the yellow lining, and only having a few red highlights along him, and only the red boiler banding, it's sort of different. You don't see many Thomases with yellow lining. The whole inspiration for the yellow was from this parody short, Thomas the Unstoppable Tank Engine, I think it is. Or was it Thomas the Unstoppable Engine? But that doesn't matter. It was Thomas the Unstoppable something. And it had all yellow. And I'm like, ooh, that yellow is very different to what we've seen before. So I decided to go use that on my J50. And I must say, it actually doesn't look too bad in the slightest. No backlining. Yeah. Otherwise, it just went over looking like a normal J50. And usually the J50s would have this massive hole right here. But if Audrey can fill it in, so can I. Just saying. Because I hate the shape of it. It's just like, oh, look at this big smooth side. And it's like, oh, it's interrupted by this huge gap. No. And the lining would cut really close, and I don't really like that. So just covering over. It's like the TV series Thomas. It's not quite need to. Yeah. His chassis, he actually does sit lower than the average Trackmaster 2 model. He does sit a little bit lower. It's not just because of this hump on Gordon here. He's actually lower. That is because his chassis, I cut like the top half, not even the top half. I trimmed his chassis down just a little bit so he could sit a little bit lower. Because the J50s are really low on their wheelbase. Yeah. I gave him the NW on the side, as I've decided that NW will be a massive feature on all of the engines that are in my AU. They'll have the NW and a number. It's guaranteed on everything. Whether it's a Northwestern number, I don't know. So, I suppose you want me to explain the front here. Well, out of wire, I used a brake pipe. I used a brake pipe. I made a brake pipe out of wire, just folding it and gluing it on with Gorilla Glue. The handrails, same situation, just Gorilla Glue it on after being bent in shape. And then the coupling hook. I put a little piece of card, because if you remember, if I showed correctly, you could see Thomas sort of had a hole in the front of him for a front coupling. So I glued a little piece of card, then I glued a hook onto it. If it'll focus, there we go. You could see the hook glued, yeah. And then, not that this actually functions as a front coupling or anything, I just like the detail. Then I also gave it a little loop, just one loop, because it doesn't really do anything, but I like just that it's there, hanging from Thomas's front hook. Yeah. Also, I decided to give Thomas the golden funnel top, just because, well, I did a concept drawing for this, and I really liked that, just being there on him, so I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, the windows were actually drilled out, like with a drill, or Dremel. Yeah, and then I did the single whistle, like the J50s have. The back windows too, you might be surprised. But yeah, those aren't just dots, those are actually drill holes. See? You can see through. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, the tanks, I've gone all this way and it didn't even mention how I made the tanks. Well, basically, I cut them, like, tried to get as even through the middle of the dome as possible. I cut them, like, down and then up through here. I cut them trying to make the shape of the tanks already, and I did. That's why the tanks are so solid, don't move a bit. Yeah, and then I just went over the entire side with a piece of card, and then the cab. Just didn't do anything with the cab. Yeah. So, I believe that has been the J50 Thomas. Oh, also I gave him white buffers, just because I like the look. Like with all the special like yellow on him and the red and the gold funnel top. I'm like, yeah, let's give him white buffers. He looks good in white buffers. Make him stand up. Make him pop. So yeah, that's been J50 / alternate universe Thomas. And I'm finally happy I decided to ditch the whole use Railway Series engines as AU engines. Not that the Railway Series engines were bad or anything. In fact, many of them were really good, and, well, you'll see where they come into play later. Just, this guy to me is Thomas in the books. And this guy to me is Thomas in the show. Now, when I'm looking at Thomas in the show or Thomas in the books, it's really hard for me to have... Come on, really? My Thomas. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I love both of these guys, but this is my Thomas. Because he's small, he's a J50, which is a lot more fuel efficient. And just, I love that. I love this guy. He's detailed, but not overly detailed. The details applied well. The paint job is practically perfect. I'm loving this guy. Yeah. So, with that has been my J50 Thomas, everybody. And I suppose I will see you in the next video. Bye.